questions, and then we'll be handing it up to our candidates. And we'll be following that up with some student questions on education-based questions from the students. So,
am I short enough to go into this?
Yes. Hello, thank you all so much for attending. It means so much to us here at Lake-Sumter State College to have such a great turnout, and I would also like to say hello to all of our colleagues down at the South Lake campus. We see you there. And you see Ms. Brown. Yeah, she says hello. So thank you for joining us as well. And I'd like to give our biggest thank you to all of our candidates, both Democrats and Republicans. Only people who have run for office before can truly appreciate what it is that they are sacrificing and how hard they are working to be here just to have the privilege of representing us and being our voice. So I'd like to give them a great big hand, all of them. And we're very interested in the future of our college and what you have to say.
I also wanted to thank the students who helped put this together, the College Democrats and the College Republicans. Dr. Thompson is the advisor for the College Republicans, and I'm the advisor for the College Democrats. My name is Jeremy Norton, that's Dr. Mark Thompson, and our students are kind of here. The way we're going to organize this is first we're going to give each of our candidates, I think there are 6 and potentially 7 that we're going to have today, give about a 2 to 3 minute introduction, whatever they want to say for those 3 minutes. And we'll cut them off after 3 minutes. That's the key. And so Dr. Thompson gets to be the bad guy in this one. Then we'll have them all sit up in a panel here and go through the student questions, and then we'll have a bit of a 2-minute response kind of conversation. We're going to get a bit more depth than usually would at these candidate forums. So I guess we'll just head straight down the list, Dr. Thompson. And so who would be our, starting State House?
Absolutely. Let's start with...
I'll let you pick a name. There's more Democrats here.
Okay, how about State House 31?
State House 31. State House? Come on up. Ms. Kaplan. So, as he mentioned, you're also speaking to YouTube.
Okay. Great. Good afternoon. How's everybody today?
Awesome.
Great, great. Thank you for inviting us here and giving us the opportunity to introduce ourselves and answer your questions. My name is Deborah Kaplan. I live in Eustis, Florida, and I was a political reporter before I decided to embark on being a candidate. I should have known better, but I didn't, so here I am. So I'm running because I feel that the working people and the small businesses and the elderly and disabled are not being represented in Tallahassee. What's being represented in Tallahassee is people write big checks. I'm not one of those recipients, and I don't want it. I want to support and represent the citizens of Lake County, and my district goes all the way down to Cassia, and it also goes to Wekiva Piedmont in Orange. And it's a very diverse area that I feel that because of all my experiences in business development, I spent 20 years as a business developer for a company in Lake Mary, and I developed business for banks and software companies, and I did public relations work, including the villages and promotions. You ever see Lethal Weapon 2 seen in Subway? That's mine. I stole it from Burger King. So I do know how to negotiate. And I want to use all my experiences, my knowledge, to represent the people. And one thing that I believe in is listening to people. I did that very successfully as a reporter and very successfully as a business developer, because the way I got in the door to represent a bank in Texas was listening to people about what was wrong with their banks, what was wrong with their insurance, what was wrong with their investments. So I feel that my listening skills could be put to best advantage because people haven't been listening to. I know that from going door to door, because people are shocked when I ask them what's important to you. What is Tallahassee not doing? And they have a whole laundry list. So clean air, water, better funding for education, common sense gun laws. Those are the top 3 things that people are concerned about, as table, roof over their head, and educate their children. And I feel I'm the best person to represent this district to do it. And I thank you very much for the opportunity of talking to you, and I look forward to answering your questions today.
Next up, we'll have our candidates from State House District 32, and we have both of them here today, Anthony Sabatini and Cynthia Brown. So, Cynthia, we'll have you go first, and then we'll follow with Anthony.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Cynthia.
It's great being here, and thank you very much for doing this today. My name is Cynthia Brown, and I'm running for the Florida House of Representatives, District 32. I was raised in Lake County from the age of 1, first in Tavares, then in Claremont, Florida, from 6th grade on. I'm the daughter of 2 Florida school teachers, public school teachers, and I'm a graduate of the University of Florida. When I graduated the University of Florida, I went to Washington, D.C. to work for Congressman Bill Young, a Republican out of St. Petersburg, Florida. On his staff, I handled defense and NASA appropriation matters. I later went to work for NASA headquarters under the Reagan administration. And then I spent the last 24 years of my life in Washington representing the shipbuilding industry of America. I'm very proud of my service of working with the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Coast Guard, and working day in and day out to build more ships in America. And also to...
Best for me, I'm not here.
Well, hope it's not mine. So I went to work every day to save and create tens of thousands of jobs across the United States, including here in the state of Florida. I came home at the end of 2010. I am a rancher in Groveland, Florida, and the reason that I'm running for public office is because I think Lake County is getting short-shrifted by Tallahassee. I'm very concerned about our public education. I'm concerned that we need to strengthen our funding for our public schools, including our community colleges here, like Lake-Sumter. I know that you have many maintenance issues and construction, and you're running budget shortfalls. I'm concerned about our pay raise, getting a pay raise for our school teachers. It's long overdue. And working to end the teach to test. I hear more complaints about that from people going door to door than anything else. Also, I am very concerned about our environment. Lake County is the county of lakes, and we need to keep our lakes clean. We need to protect our aquifer, and if our lakes are dirty, we need to clean them up. Agriculture, always been an important part of Florida's economy. And when we used to have orange groves for as far as the eye can see, I know we lost those in the freezes of the early 80s, but we can't afford to lose any more of our orange groves, or our farmers, our blueberry farmers, our watermelon growers. They're all very important to our economy, and I will work closely with them and work closely to bring good, high-paying jobs to the district, because it all starts with education. Our children are our future. And if we don't have an educated workforce or a skilled workforce, that's why I support VOTEC. It's very important. Not everybody wants to go to college or needs to go to college, but we need to have that training for them, and there are great careers ahead of them. And I want to thank every one of you again for being here. Again, my name is Cynthia Brown. I'm a candidate for the Florida House of Representatives, District 32. I'm a Democrat, proud of it, and I'm here to ask for your vote on November the 6th. Thank you very much.
How's everybody doing? Great. I'm Anthony Sabatini. I'm the Republican nominee for District 32. District 32 State House is about 2/3 of the county. It's Howie in the Hills, down to Four Corners, Leesburg, the bottom of Fruitland Park, Mascot. And I've lived here in Lake County my whole life. I really do love Lake County. And the reason I'm running is because I want to make sure it's always a very good place for people to live, whether they want to raise a family or retire. And I think in order for it to be a good place to live, we got to make sure that we have a good economy. We have to make sure we have a safe and enjoyable place to live, and we have to make sure we protect our environment. And so I'll say a few things about myself. Like I said, I grew up here, went to public school, graduated Eustis High School, Eustis Public Schools, went to the University of Florida, came out, worked managing small businesses for a number of years. For the last 10 years, I've been a member of the Florida Army National Guard as an infantryman, 5 years, the last 5 years as an officer, serving right here in Lake County. I'm the executive officer for the National Guard unit on Bay Street in Eustis. And so all the hurricanes that have come to the state for the last 10 years, that was me on the TV set or whoever, making sure that Floridians were safe during those times of natural disaster. I went to law school at the University of Florida and came back because I wanted to make sure that Lake County was always a good place to live. And it was better than the Lake County that I grew up in, which is hard to beat. I really was very privileged to have grown up here. And so I served as a city commissioner for the last couple of years over in the town of Eustis, just making sure that the government was restrained, that economic development was happening, economic opportunity was increased. And so fortunately, when people grow up in Lake County, get out of high school or college, they actually come back here for jobs. It's very important to me that people my age, my peers who have grown up here in Lake County, always have a chance to not sacrifice anything by staying here in Lake County. And went to my high school 10-year reunion last year, is our 10-year reunion, and I noticed a lot of the people who were doing the best since high school and actually had the opportunity to stay in Lake County and live a good life were those who took advantage of vocational and technical education. And so I am very proud of the fact that when I get to Tallahassee, I'll be fighting as hard as I possibly can to fund our state colleges and our vocational schools. Out of the higher education budget, I believe the state college system only really gets about 21% of that, and I think that's unfair. And I think we need to do everything we can to get affordable degrees that are accessible for people who grew up here in Lake County quickly so they can work and be small business owners, buy homes, and live a good life right here in Lake County. And standing with our state college system, standing with the vocational schools, and fighting for them is going to enable that. So that's one of the reasons I actually decided to run, because like I said, just after my high school 10-year reunion, taking a look around and seeing that some of the people who didn't take that path really didn't have a good avenue to success. And so once again, I'm Anthony Sabatini. I'm the Republican nominee for the State House of Representatives. I'm definitely looking forward to speaking with you individually about your concerns for our district. Thank you.
Now we'd like to welcome up candidate for State House District 33, Orrin Miller.
My name is Orrin Miller. I'm running for State House 33. It encompasses 3 counties, all of Sumter County, part of Lake County, the northwest corner, and part of Marion County. I want to be your representative. I came out of Chicago 6.5 years ago. I retired from Caterpillar. I worked my way up from a bird bench. I was cleaning castings. You ever want to go back to school? Go clean castings for a while, you go back to school real quick. I came down here, I wanted to mind my own business. I really did. I just wanted to retire, stay out of trouble, not get involved in politics or anything else, and just have fun. But the more I saw, the more I learned, the more I said, I've got to get involved, I've got to try and make a difference. I've got to go to Tallahassee and see what I can get done. Now let's talk about some education. Education in Florida, the last 10 years, has gone backwards in funding. We used to fund at about $7,400 per student for kindergarten through 12th grade. It's now at $7,600. In today's money with inflation, that should be closer to $8,500. We've lost about $1,100 per student in the last 10 years with the Congress we had in Tallahassee. It's time to fix that. Let's talk about VPK. VPK is voluntary preschool. We had an amendment in 2002 that said we're going to give quality education, not just education. It said we're going to give quality education to our 4-year-olds. We funded it and started the program in 2005. Increase the money a little bit in 2006, increase it in 2007. The bottom. We've got the money. It's not a money issue. Our legislators are not paying attention to education. Someone that's running for governor right now has said there's a pipeline that's being built in Florida between poor education and the jails. Sumter County is now paying $33 million to add on to a jail because we're putting more people in jail. Let's put more money in education. Let's talk about teachers. Teachers in Florida, 42nd out of 50 states on average for pay. So my advice to anybody going to school and getting an education and becoming a teacher and a certificate, don't do it here. Take that money. On average, you can make $9,000 more a year to be the average school for teachers. Why are we not paying our teachers? And for teachers, I've met with 20 teachers in the last 4 months. It's not just money. It's benefits. It's respect. They want a career path. Yeah, maybe I wanted to be a second-grade teacher, but not necessarily for the rest of my life. I may not want to teach high school. I may want to be an administrator. I may want to be someone at the college. They need a career path. They need more say-so in what they're doing in their classrooms. They don't want to be told how to do everything by rote. And then the last couple of weeks of school, when the testing is all done, they get to try and cram into the kids what they really want them to learn. They don't want annual contracts. Okay? They can't plan a family. They can't plan a career. They can't plan anything in their life when they're working on a year-to-year, not knowing if they're going to have a job next year or not. We got to correct things in Tallahassee for our teachers and our students both. We got a lot of work to do in education. My name is Orrin Miller. I'm going to be your representative. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to the candidates running for the State Senate District 12. We have both of them today. Senator Baxley, I'll start with you, and then we'll move on to Gary McKechnie right after that. Come on up, Senator.
Well, thank you. It's great to be with you. I want to thank the college for hosting. I am a community college graduate, 2 of them as a matter of fact, and I know that they're the gateway for opportunity, and I appreciate what you're doing to encourage everyone to participate more. It's your government. It's your seat in the Florida Senate. It's not mine. And with term limits, it's always very short that you're there, actually. But I want to thank you for allowing me for the last 2 years to serve as your senator. And I want to thank you and ask you to please consider sending me back. So I am facing re-election. Half of us who had even-numbered terms, even though it's usually a 4-year term, we've got partial terms, so that all the Senate doesn't turn over at one time. And so that means I'm up for election. But then I've been a House member before, a couple of stints in the House. And the fact is, I'm used to running every 2 years. So we don't have very good job security either. We don't have any continuing contracts. We have to go back and earn the vote with you each time an election turns over. And it's a privilege to do that. I'm a businessman. I'm one of those kids that wasn't a star. I didn't get a scholarship to anything. I was a B's are good kid. Except right on my report card, B's are good. So. But you don't get all these advantages, and you have to really work for it. And I left home at 17 years old, and I was self-funded. And I never borrowed money. I worked over 50 hours a week and went to school full-time. You can do it. It's America. There's a lot of opportunity if you can see it and if you can grasp it. And so what happened, I went on to Florida State University and graduated. I went to another community college in Miami-Dade to get my funeral service credentials. I came back to the funeral home where I worked through college and was literally washing the cars and mowing the yard, being the Saturday secretary and running ambulance calls in the middle of the night. And you know what? This little kid became the principal owner of that firm through the 6 business locations, and I saw many people gain opportunities by working with us. And I tell you, it's still a great country. same stories. We did do big emphasis the last couple of years under some leadership to really have premier universities. We spent a lot of money there. And it's time. It's time for our vocational and tech schools and state colleges to be funded adequately. And I have advocated that this is where 97% can improve the quality of their families' lives. And so I'm very engaged on that, and I'm glad to see that that whole topic is gaining momentum. We went through a great recession here a few years ago, and it's very hard, but in Florida, we have to do one thing. We have it in our Constitution that we have to pass a balanced budget. We don't spend money we don't have. Being fiscally sound has put us in a very positive position as we've recovered. Is that my number already? That's your number. I want to tell you that we need to keep Florida on track. Republican leadership will be preserved in this election cycle, and you need a Republican to get there that can get to that front row. It's my pleasure to serve you. I ask for your vote, and God bless you.
Hi, nice to see everyone. Just curious, I'm going to make this a little bit more casual. I don't have a planned speech, I just have some notes. How many of you are college students? Just raise your hand. Okay, great. How many of you are Democratic college students? Okay, how many Republican college students? Okay, roughly the same number. Yeah, when I was in college, I was Republican. I was a Reagan Republican. And what I wanted to share with you is that as I went through college and I got out of college and I traveled across Europe and then I got on my motorcycle and I started traveling across America, all of a sudden my life wasn't just in Maitland where I was born. It wasn't just in Winter Park. It wasn't just in Florida. Now it was all over America. It was all around Europe. And it was sort of like, if you can envision this, it's sort of like a balloon, you know, taking off. And all of a sudden my horizons started to expand the more I was elevated in the world. And I could see broader distances. And the message at the time for Republicans, it was more insulated. And I started to look at the world with a little bit more nuance. It wasn't all black and white. There were shades of gray. And I had to work with other people and start to adapt my worldview to that. And you guys, you college students and ladies, are going to be doing that as well. I had an advantage over you, though. I graduated from Valencia Community College in 1982 and from UCF in 1985. When I got out of school, how much do you guys pay for tuition each semester? Is it like $100, $200? What? It's changed? No. You know, when I got out of school, I didn't have an ounce of debt. I was working at Disney World as a Jungle Cruise skipper and a cast member, and I was working weekends at a comedy club. My tuition, I think per semester, and Dennis, you're just roughly we're the same age, but when we got through school, community college, for just maybe a few $100 a semester, you know, add books, maybe $400, $500 or so. That was it. You guys are behind the eight ball. Right when you get out of school, if you go on to, you know, four-year school or even beyond that, you've already got shackles on your feet. You are really behind the eight ball. And that doesn't do anybody any good. If you're getting out of school and the jobs that you can get, say even if they're not minimum wage, say they're double minimum wage. In Florida, it's roughly $8, $8.25 an hour. So say you get $15, $16 an hour. Now, how much time do I have? 20 minutes? 30? I've got 21 seconds? Oh, I'm talking slow. I'm trying to talk slow. In any event, tell you what, ask me some questions when we're on the panel, and we'll talk about how wages are going to affect your life. And we've got to get you guys set up to enjoy the same privileges that we've had, because we've had a generation and a half to screw things up for you. And we've really done it. Now we've got to fix it. Okay, thank you. Now we have one candidate for the United States Congress from District 11, Democrat Dana Cottrell.
Good today and to our audience. When Gary asked a question about how many students here were college students, it was interesting to note how few hands went up. And I hope you all looked at that when he asked that question. The reason for that is because the polls say that 28 to 32% of students, young adults, 18 to 29 will come out to vote. And the statistic is that 74% of seniors will come out to vote. So how many in this room are seniors? Please raise your hands. They're here today, college students. So if you all want to know why your issues aren't addressed, it's because you're not voting. When we talk to people, and I talk to other people around the communities and I'm out shaking hands, I'm going into some of the poorest neighborhoods to try to get out the vote. Their issues are not addressed because they don't vote. So when we look at the wage gap in Florida, and we look at our education system, and we look at the needs of the schools in the poorest neighborhoods, they're not voting. They're not represented. I go and I look at the homeless population, which is a huge issue and getting worse each day, among veterans, but also among families who face catastrophic illness, who face loss of job, overwhelming debt, cannot afford rent, and they're living in their homes. The homeless rate in Hernando County is 800 students in the elementary through high school. In Marion County, it is higher. 1,200 registered students in elementary school through high school are homeless. Why? They don't vote. You need to exercise your rights. I was a social studies teacher for almost 25 years. I taught students, your voice is your vote. That goes for all Americans. You're introduced to us as candidates today. You have all of our literature. It is your responsibility to go and find out who we are, what we stand for, and how we will represent you. I want to represent the citizens of District 11. That is all of Hernando, Citrus, Sumter, Marion County, Lake County. It is the southern part of Marion. It is the northwestern portion of Lake County. How many of you know who your congressperson is right now? That is great. So I am running against Daniel Webster. So if he's your congressperson, that is who I'm running against. I ask you to go onto my website. My rack cards are there. It has the issues that we feel are very, very important this year that I'm running. Part of that is education. As a teacher for 25 years, I understand that. A lot of that is movement out of generational poverty. Because again, if we are going to move Americans along, we need to get out of poverty. Environment, another huge issue. And I'm dinging. So please get out and vote. Tell your friends, tell your family. It doesn't matter who you're voting for. That is your right. But please vote. Thank you very much.
All right. Just to let everybody know, we did invite everybody, Republicans and Democrats running for all the seats these seats and more congressional seats, everything that had a district within Lake County. So we're really glad for those who were able to make it today. And in fact, if I could have our current candidates come over and have a seat on this side, we'll be getting to our question and answer portion from the students. So we're going to reposition our studio audience. You can self-silence. You don't. It's still like you can.
I just got the first one I can get. I know this guy, not a problem.
You thought you should share the zone.
We're not going for the same office. So we're
Hi, I'm Devin Richard, and I'm wondering how you will keep schools safe, our public schools and our colleges and our all of our public schools and stuff too.
All right, let's see. Well, let's start on this side here.
Well, thank you very much.
Give you 2 minutes, but yeah.
I think one of the most empowering things is to figure out how to give more authority to people who already have responsibility for students to do what they know to do. And I'm glad that part of our safety law, although I didn't vote for it because I felt like some of the restrictions in it were too limiting to your age group. And I felt like the restrictions were only affecting people who live by the rules. These incidents occur because of people that don't live by the rules. So they don't care what rules you pass. They ignore them. And all you're doing is making it harder. There's a freedom about America that is very unusual. And it's the freedom to take responsibility for yourself and others. And I value that freedom and I protect that freedom. What I do believe is that we do have safe schools. We've been shocked and traumatized by an incident that was 1 in 100 years. Actually, millions of students do get to school back safe and do participate in school safely. But what I would do is empower more people that are on site to be able to act. And that can be a very select group. I'll give you an example. Paisley School out here actually operates on a conversion chart because they know they're a remote school. It'll be 20 minutes before anybody can ever get there. And but you know who the principal is? He's a United States Marine. He knows what to do. You would empower him to have a select number of people on security team that can meet that force and are the most highly motivated people to protect the safety of those children. Now, a lot of schools have chosen the most expensive option, which is to hire a lot more police officers. Your sheriffs cannot afford to put on that much staff. I have a deputy son who, he's a homicide investigator. In order to quell people's concerns, these kind of law enforcement have been placed in schools to try to quiet this perception that they're on attention. But I think we are on a good track and there's more permanent changes we can make in structure that will make a big difference too.
Are we just going down?
Yeah, I'll kind of jump around. Anybody has a preference? So. Okay, this one.
And if you don't mind maybe standing when you answer so the people in South Lake can see.
Could you also say your name again?
My name is Orrin Miller. With all due respect, your schools are not safe. They're not even close to safe. More students have been shot and killed this year than people in the military. That's not school safety. We had a problem years ago with people hijacking planes. We didn't give the flight attendants guns. We shouldn't give the teachers guns. That's not the answer. Schools should be gun-free zones. Put a single point of entry, put metal detectors in until we can get some sensible gun laws in this state and in this country, and make it so nobody can bring a gun to school. We've got schools that do a lot of reactive things in case the shooter gets in there. Let's do something proactive and keep the shooters out of the schools so we don't have to react to it. They should be gun-free, single point of entry, gun-free zones, no teachers with guns. I'm done, thank you.
Follow the Lake County model. The Lake County School Board came up with a pretty good safety plan. Although I do agree with Senator Baxley, putting police officers and sheriff's deputies in every classroom is inordinately expensive. You can do it with private security and well-trained administrators. It's a better way to go. Highly trained veterans working in the school system will keep our kids safe. To neglect the fact or to ignore the fact that you can train them to do that job is, I think, just a bad idea. It's a waste of available resources. The school bill was overall a positive bill. It had good things in it. We needed money to harden the schools. We need money for mental health counselors, but we do not need gun control. In fact, taking guns away from people who are 18, 19, and 20 years old, telling them that which guns they can and can't purchase, treats them as children. And the last thing we need is young people being continually treated as children and told that they're not responsible enough to purchase a firearm. I think that's the wrong way to go in society.
Okay, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? You can see me okay? Devin, you asked that question for a reason. Why did you ask? Are you nervous when you go to campus, when you go to school?
I'm not nervous.
last I counted, between 2008 and 2016, President Obama never took a single gun away from anybody. The Second Amendment is pretty well protected by people like, Dennis and Mr. Sabatini here. And nobody's saying, people are going to come and, raid your home in the middle of the night and take your guns. That's not going to happen. But I'm very scared for people like you. When I was in high school, my biggest fear was Karen Friedel wouldn't go out on a date with me. That was my biggest fear. But now I work with middle school students and high school students up in Washington, D.C. I'm an educator up there each spring. And I'm out of time already? Okay, I did ask for 1 minute.
And
is it
Friedel ever went out?
Yeah, she did go out with me just once. But isn't it daylight savings time coming up? Don't I have an extra minute? Anyway, very briefly, Devin. When I'm at the Lincoln Memorial, Vietnam Vets Wall, Martin Luther King, I'm always very aware that some idiot could be out there with a gun. It scares the hell out of me. So we have to find a solution. And these guys are on one end, Orrin and I are on another end. And there's going to be compromise solutions to get anything done. But I sure don't want to see somebody like you hurt, and I don't want to trample on your Second Amendment rights, okay?
Devin, thank you for your question. First of all, I would like to say that as a Democrat, I support the Second Amendment. I'm a gun owner. And when I purchased my gun, I was subjected to a background check. I believe everyone who purchases a firearm should be subjected to a background check. There should be no loopholes for gun shows. There should be no loopholes for buying a gun on the internet. We have, and the reason is that's how we can identify. If someone has anger management issues, mental health issues, we need to have that data. And I think that background check needs to be enhanced so that we know who is getting the guns and to try to help the people before they get them so they don't get in the wrong hands. School security, I support the referendum that was passed here in Lake County that provides more money for to have police officers at our schools. I'm for that. And I agree with, was it you, Warren, the single point of entry too for our schools. We need to work on that. Thank you very much.
I support the Second Amendment as a Democrat, and also I will tell you that I covered 40 murders when I was a reporter. I was a homicide reporter. So I have seen what guns can do, and I covered the aftermath of those cases by covering the trials. I will tell you that we need to harden the schools first and foremost. That is the most important thing. A lot of our schools, they went to an architectural style of open campuses, which meant open access to people coming in from all directions, such as Newtown. Sandy Hook, there were a lot of entrances there. Why I mentioned Sandy Hook, my niece is an autism teacher in that district who lost 3 people that day, the principal and the 2 teachers. And believe me, as her aunt, I was in a panic when I heard about that shooting because I didn't know she was there that day. That should never happen. We should never have parents being afraid that they're going to lose their kids. We should tighten the regulations on gun control. Common sense gun control is good for this state, good for this country. We need to make sure that people who are not mentally ill, who are felons, domestic abusers, have guns. And people with anger management issues need to be helped. So that's my solution to keeping you guys safe.
Dana Cottrell. To speak, you addressed schools specifically, so I'm going to stay on that topic. I think that we have not asked the stakeholders what their solutions they would have, which would be the students and the teachers. And I will tell you, as a teacher, teachers have spoken up, and we've said for years to our representative government that you're cutting education funding, you're cutting our counselors in schools, you're making class sizes too large, you are not addressing the needs of our students. We need more support when we deal with students in schools who are bullies. We need to be able to have students have some type of discipline, and that's been taken away. And you all know that, and when you talk to the school board, no teacher has any kind of pull in their classroom to exercise any kind of control in their classroom or to deal with the issues of their students. And all support systems have been taken out from them as they've cut the education funding over and over and over again. So to, I think, alleviate some of this and help is some issues of counseling for students when needed, smaller class sizes for students, and to have teachers being able to talk with students in their classrooms. And that goes not just to violence in society and bullying in society, but these are issues that students want to talk about in their classrooms, and we've got them locked into a curriculum, of a humanistic curriculum, and we do not give them outlets for what is affecting their lives every day. And I think that students need that, and I think that teachers will tell you that they need that for their students. And I agree with Gary and Lauren.
Hello, my name is Jared, and I have a question for all the candidates. So the question is, what is your position on career in technical education in high school and colleges?
Okay, start from here. This is a great question, and I love this question. So again, this is something that has been taken away from our schools. And in Hernando County, the welding program has just gone away, and the reason why was because there was no test on it. It could not be tested, so it could not be counted into the high school grade. So what did they do? They got rid of welding, because that would affect the test score, and that would affect how Tallahassee sees the grade. And that needs to change, and that's why we need to elect Democrats this year. Not all students are going to college. My son might not be going to college. We need trade and technical programs, and I will tell you what else we need, and this goes to the last question too, is an overhaul of our entire curriculum system. We need to look at going away from 19th century curriculum and getting away from this humanities curriculum and go toward more internships and apprenticeships for students. Get them out of the classroom and get our elementary kids back out to the playground. Our kids need to experience life. We've got them sitting in rooms with absolutely no connection to what they're doing or what they're learning to their future, and that needs to change. So I want to see a large overhaul of the system, and part of that is bringing back trade, education, vocational tech, apprenticeships, mentorships, getting you all out and off your butts, because you need to know about the world out there.
I am a proponent of vocational education. I've seen it in my own family. My nephew was not a college-bound type of kid. He could take apart anything in a few minutes and put it back together. His sister is a teacher. Teaching was good for her, but vocational ed was good for him. He is HVAC certified. He did the journeyman thing. He was an apprentice, and he's now part owner in a company. And I'll tell you, I have seen how this works well. The flaw in our current system is we approve vocational education magnet schools, but we don't allow for transportation to get the kids there. So we have one in Leesburg right now for construction. Wonderful start. However, if you live in Mount Dora or Eustis or Claremont or Mineola and you don't have a car, or you're from a poor family who can't get there, you can't participate. So either we satellite these classes so that people can participate in their own local community, or we get transportation built in. But I want to expand the vocational education. I think it's a great way to go because it's a way to a middle class life, and people are successful when they can have something, a career. And not everyone's meant to go to college. Not all people are great at book learning. They're good with their hands, and they know how to make that work for their lives.
I'll just echo the words of Dana and Deborah here. And I think you also talked about incorporating vocational in the high schools, and I agree with that. I think that, we need to expand vocational education throughout the system, in our high schools as well as in our community state colleges. As a former shipbuilder, I can tell you, we need welders. And it was a huge problem across the country when vocational schools closed and the shipyards had to to invest so much money to train welders to the quality, the standards that they had to meet to build a ship for the Navy. So plumbers make great money. Electricians make great money. And it's not just, you know, a good paying or a middle class job, it's a high paying job. And we need those skills, and we need to have those skills available to marry up, to bring the businesses that want to move here that need those skills, and also the businesses that are here and need those skills. So, great question. I'm all for it.
Okay. Are you calling for me the person? All right. Great question. Devin, I just wanted to follow up. In my old job, remember, I used to carry a gun. It was a .38, and I shot hippos on the jungle cruise. In any event, I think all of us are in agreement on, you know, the need for vo-tech, because not everyone is, you know, ready to go to college and ready to pursue a liberal arts degree. My toolkit at home, I've got a hammer and I've got a spoon. That's it. So anytime I need something done, I've got to call the plumber, I've got to call the guy with the drywall, I've got to call the welder, I've got to call anybody else to take care of something for me. So the more we can train, and this isn't just a local issue, you know, I mean, this is a national issue, because we've gone through a whole generation where it's like, hey, everybody should be a poet, everybody should be a philosopher. It doesn't work that way. We have real world jobs and real world needs, and the sooner we get people in high school geared up to get on that track, if that's the track that they want to be on, because we have a lot of opportunity out there, the better it's going to be for everybody. Okay?
71% of the students in Sumter County live below the poverty level. 71%. In one school in Wildwood, 91% of the kids live below poverty level because we failed to give their parents an education in vo-tech or somewhere else to get a good job. I have two kids I love to death. Our son is an iron worker. He went to a trade school. Our daughter's a nurse, highly skilled nurse. He has more money in his pocket than she does. He has less strife in his life than she does. I'm equally proud of both of them. Every student that goes to school should come out with a career path to something where they can make a good job with good benefits.
It's definitely become a nonpartisan issue, and we all agree on this. And let me just say this. People, the earlier you can get experience working in any field, the better. And young people who, even if they don't know if that's what they want to do for the rest of their lives, the earlier we can get them on the job, training, getting experience, the better. They're going to be settled, they're going to get some autonomy, cash in their pocket. I'm 100% for vocational education programs. Our great state representative in the north end of the county, Jennifer Sullivan, because she's a very personable and effective legislator, pulled in an $850,000 construction academy for Leesburg High School. That's the high school with the lowest graduation rate. So now, if you take place, if you go to school in Lake County and you engage in that construction academy, you're guaranteed a job out of it. Most of these construction jobs now are between $16 and $18 an hour. And so it's there to start. You could be in high school, working, getting a vocation. I'll say one more thing about being a poet and artist and all that. Even the people with lofty goals, for example, you want to be the world's greatest painter or whatever, they themselves had vocational training. You know, they started with vocations. Vocation is basis for a long career, even if you don't end up in that exact trade. So getting kids in the experienced workforce is key for me too.
Well, it took a senator on the other end of the building to get that project done. It is $815,000 to redo Leesburg High School, and it's a great program, and it's going to be a model for how a lot of other schools need to be set up. First of all, there does not need to be a dichotomy here. I've done a lot of education committees in the Florida House. I've chaired the Education Council over all these committees, and I'm telling you, we need to push the ladder of the work world and the ladder of academia closer together. We need to make it easier to ladder back and forth. These state colleges and tech centers can be extremely valuable in people laddering their way up through career arenas. I give, for an example, teachers. Some of the best teachers that stick to it and are able to endure. They started out as support staff at schools. They saw classroom teachers and they said, I can do that. And we had mechanisms by which then they could get credentialed to move to the classroom. And they don't have culture shock because they know that culture. These are not mutually exclusive. You can ladder back and forth. And you're going to need an IT education if you're going to repair a car today.
Hey, my name is Eunice. I'd like to know your stance on teacher unions. This is a general question to everyone.
I think teachers' unions are great. And the reason I support them is I think that every walk of life, you need to have an advocate for you. The unions can speak for all of the teachers, and that gives them voice that on an individual one-on-one basis, they cannot. So I support the teachers union, and I think that more teachers should join. Maybe if we gave them more money, they'd be able to join. Okay, thank you.
I am pro-union all the way around. My grandparents were founding members of the International Garment Workers of America. They worked in sweatshops in squalid conditions, which is not what a schoolroom is, but I believe that unions best help people achieve a middle-class life and protect their rights. So I am for unions, and I don't like what happened up at the session last year where they tried to break the back of the unions. That was a wrong thing to do. Bargaining for your people is a good thing to protect the rights and also have good processes in place. Because we're a right-to-work state. And I worked in a place until 3 weeks ago when I retired that we didn't have paid holidays. We had 3 weeks of PTO, and if you got sick and you used it up, that was it. So I know the value of having your rights protected and good benefits and good pay. And I'm a supporter of unions no matter who they represent.
I was the union representative at my school at Bitburg High School for 7 years, FEA, NEA, and I support unions, obviously. The problem that I see with unions is that the bargaining power of the unions has been chipped away by law and legislation and has taken away the rights or the power of the union to enact a say or a voice for its membership. And I see that that is a lot of the reason why people have dropped out of unions is because they ask, well, what power do we have? How are you accomplishing anything? Nobody really adheres or asks your opinion. They just go ahead and make laws, and I think that's very evident with some of the solutions to school safety that we've seen up in Tallahassee. And my dad always told me, this is good advice for you coming out, don't ask your salary when you go for a job, ask what your benefits are, because that was very important. Your health care, your retirement, your pension, and for the union, we need to support those pensions and safeguard those pensions for all union membership, and that is something that is very important, and that's why we're running.
Thank you. I think unionization is a work group's choice. My question, and I did address this in the last session, if only 30% of a work group belongs to the union, then how do we legitimate the process? How do we know we're even talking to the right people to represent that whole work group when only 30% of them are union members? And so I said, at least half of them ought to belong if that's who they want to speak for them. And once you make that decision, then you've decided to go with the herd. Now, I'm a very independent, entrepreneurial kind of guy. I don't belong to anyone. I want to negotiate for myself, because what I see the unions doing is protecting the core and the dead wood and never making changes that can really make a difference. And I see a lot of teachers that are exceptional, and this is what bothered me in education. If you do something outstanding, nothing really great happens. If you do something really crappy, nothing really bad happens. We just are muddling along. And these reforms have changed things. And what's happened is we've produced more accountability and excitement from producers, and today we have increased graduation rates from began to say, what gets measured gets done. And that's what that was all about. And the difference is, it's up to you. You want freedom, or you want somebody to speak for you?
I'll just finish by saying, I echo the senator's comments, but I'll say in addition to that, don't make the mistake of conflating one group's interest for another. I do believe that a teachers union does try to advocate for teachers well, but a teachers union is a union for teachers. And sometimes I think that conflicts with what's best for students. There's, I think, a good, healthy disagreement on what's best for students, and that's what politics is all about. But don't ever forget that it's a teachers union, not a students union. And so sometimes their goals sometimes conflict, I believe, with what's best for the students.
We got two.
I hired into Caterpillar as a union employee. I became a steward, a chief steward, and a committeeman. I was really good at negotiating. The same way I'm going to negotiate for my people in District 33. I got promoted that way. Unions are a safety net for teachers. Teachers get an annual contract. The vice principal or principal comes along and says, I don't need you next year, thank you very much, you're gone. That's the end of it. If they don't have a union to protect them, they're out of work. They can be terminated for no reason. I've got a list of teachers in Sumter County last year that were rated highly effective, and they were let go at the end of the year for no reason. They need a union to support them.
I also agree with unions for a couple of reasons, teachers unions as well. Historically, if you look at American history, the birth of the middle class, the great American middle class, came at the end of World War II. That comes after the Ford factory was unionized, and all of a sudden we had union jobs going on all over the country, in coal mines and everywhere else. After World War II, all of a sudden we had this great economy going, we had people involved in unions, and all of a sudden that built a great middle class. Now with the destruction of the union starting around 1980 with Ronald Reagan, then all of a sudden the wealth disparity now is at its greatest point since the Great Depression. The wealthiest have the most money by far, and the rest of the 98, 99% have less. So whether it's teachers, whether it's shop workers, whether it's mechanics, you have to unionize. Chris Rock had that great joke, remember? He said, it's like minimum wage. He said, minimum wage is someone's way of saying, hey, I pay you less, but it's against the law. So, you have to look out for the workers. And hey, I've owned businesses as well, but it has to be fair. We have to work for the common good, make sure things work for people at all levels of society. Okay?
All right, candidates, thank you so much for coming tonight. But my question's a little more lighthearted. Can you please name someone from the other party you would like to work with? And yes, they still have to be alive.
Well, I'd like to work with Gary, but I want him to be as a civilian, not as a member. I think he can bring some great ideas. He's a fun guy. I enjoy every time I'm with him. He's funny. But some of the failed ideas of the past just don't work. And we have to move forward with what does work. And what we've seen is what gets measured gets done. And I've spent 50 years serving people. But I have to work with people across the aisle all the time, and have. Most of what we do, if you look at the Senate votes, we vote together. It's just work. It's just trying to make it all work out. And we do invest heavily. Healthcare and education are the biggest businesses we're in. I looked at my home county that I'm home from. I won't talk about Lake County because they're doing even better. But in 2 years, the taxpayers are investing over $1 billion spending on the education system. It's one of the biggest things we do. And it is important that it be one of the biggest things we do. But it's not all about how much money. It's best value. They spend a lot more money in Washington, D.C. per school and per student. But I promise you, I don't want my kids going to school there. I have 5 kids and 8 grandkids, and I want what's best for each one of them to survive.
Jump around.
You want to jump around?
All right. Personally, I'd like to work with Devin. What do you say, pal? Okay. We'll be co-senators. How's that sound? Are you old enough to vote? Okay, good. Hey, we're cooking now. No, there was a guy, I believe his name is Andy Gardner. He was in the, was he Florida House, Florida Senate? I can't remember. He was in both. Real nice guy. Real nice guy from Apopka, and I wrote for Orlando Magazine for several years, and I interviewed a lot of local people. And I talked to Andy, and I said, hey, someday, this is like 12, 13 years ago, I said, I really admire what you do. He's a little bit younger than me. And he said, why don't you do it? I said, and politics isn't in my future. He said, hey, he goes, if you do decide to get in it, he said, give me a call. I said, hey, you're a Republican, I'm a Democrat. He said, that's okay. He said, that's all right. He said, we might have disagreements. We don't have to be disagreeable. We can all work on, things that benefit all people. And I thought that was just a really class act. That's why I like that guy. And I'd love to work with him.
Just so you know, and I'm probably going to get shot for saying this, I'm voting for a Republican this year for Sumter County Board of Commissioners because she's running against someone that's on the County Board of Commissioners that need to be replaced. They constantly break the law. They laugh at breaking the law. She will give us the voice we need. So I'm voting for Republican this year. Thank you.
Well, I voted for a Republican too this year. Sean Parks, member of the county commission. And throughout this campaign, we've gotten to know one another because we're at all these candidate events together. And so I've gotten to know Sean pretty well. And I think he's a fair, level-headed guy. And so I voted for him. And that's the way we should all vote. We should vote for the candidate, not for the party.
I believe in reaching across the aisle. I don't have a particular candidate, but I believe that compromise sometimes is very good, that we all work together for the betterment of the citizens of Florida. I would like to work with every mayor and council member and also, selectmen in this state to make sure that our cities and our towns are included in the government process. All too often we're dictating down from Tallahassee to our cities and towns, our mayors, and we shouldn't do that in our county commissioners. We should be working together, not at odds for each other, and that's, it's more of a general question. I don't have an individual, but if somebody's worthy of that vote, whether they be Republican or Democrat, they should have it. But I would like to work with all the leaders and make sure that Florida works for all of us.
That's a great statement because for any of us to be successful, we need to work together. So again, regardless of your party or what affiliation you have, when you look at our mission statement, on my card, it has that we all want the same goals for our families. We want education, we want employment, we want to be successful, we want financial security, we want safety, we want to age with dignity. And to do that, we need to work together. So what I think has been forgotten at the congressional level, especially for the House, is the relationship with the local level. And I want to work with the school boards, I want to work with the county commissions, and I want to make sure that the Congress is able to free up money that goes right back to the districts in the form of charters and grants to get things accomplished in the district and vocational schools that you're talking about, ensuring up the safety of your schools. So I'm looking forward to working with all. But who do I want to work with? Bernie Sanders.
I look forward to working with co-legislator Democrats around Central Florida. A majority of the issues facing our state, believe it or not, are actually pretty much nonpartisan. They have to do with just people approaching these issues and taking them seriously and planning for Florida's future. It's not really just about black and white, stark values type issues. Connectivity, transportation, Central Florida as Lake County continues to become more part of Orlando and Central Florida as a whole. Legislators from all around Central Florida will have to focus on basically filling Florida's needs for connectivity. And so I look forward to working with them on quite a few different bills, Democrats all across Central Florida and the Florida House.
So we actually have a kind of a combo viewers down in Southlake and also one of our board members had a sort of similar take. There was a piece of paper that was distributed on your seats, and hopefully you hold on to that and look through it on behalf of our Dr. Cedar, the president, and our board. And kind of the question from Southlake is related to that. That a student asked that you mentioned funding, but you didn't give any specifics on how education funding for the college in this case, or funding for K-12, what your plan would be to do that. So this might be more related to the State House and Senate candidates than our presidential candidates, but I'll give everybody an opportunity.
Well, it just dawned on me, I'm the only one up here that's actually done this stuff. And it's hard to go up there and have a discussion with 160 legislators and make the governor happy and he's got to get close enough that he'll sign it. And there's very divergent views of what the different emphases are and where to put which dollars. So it's a very exciting discussion that we can all be a part of. And you can be a part of that discussion now. One of the most valuable things to me when I look around the room is the people who come see me and talk to me about how things are working on the ground where they are. If you know, you need to know your senator. Each of you has a senator and a house member. They need to know you and you need to know them. You need to go to Tallahassee during committee weeks and call on them, visit with them, ask how they're doing, and then tell them what a concern is for you. What do you think the challenge is? I'm looking for 5 emails. I get about 1,200 a week. Okay? I want 5 of them. And what they look like? Somebody I know lives in my district. I know they know this topic, and they're proposing a solution. Thank you.
Well, as the senator alluded to earlier, there was a big effort in the Florida Legislature to make our research university preeminent. I understand why they did that. If you look at states of considerably similar size, we were behind. So I enjoyed the fact that they did that, but now it's time that our state colleges and vocational colleges become preeminent. So we have to really focus on that. The funding, the majority of our higher education appropriations should be geared towards that. Hasn't spoken since I got in the campaign in the beginning. That'll be my priority. In addition to that, I'm glad I live in a Republican state, Republican country, with good economic policies that have given us more tax revenues because of those policies. And so we'll take those increased tax revenues that are being projected currently and spending them in higher education for state colleges. Now, if we would have had higher taxes, we'd have less growth, less tax revenue, and so that would have been bad for higher education. And so, like I said, that's going to be my focus, and that's where the revenue will come from.
VTK funding should go from $2,400 a year to $3,200 a year immediately. Year 1, when I get to Tallahassee. Students, $8,500 a year to start, just to put us up to where we need to be from where we were 10 years ago. Teachers' salaries need to come up to where we're at the average for the country, not the bottom 10%. Benefits for teachers need to come up so we're at the average, not the bottom. We've got a lot of funding to do to get education back so we're not in the bottom 10% of the country.
Was this in reference to colleges or public schools? Just
it was colleges for
yes.
one question in general.
Okay, well then colleges specifically, Dennis alluded to it. He said that, there's 160 lawmakers up there and you have no idea what obstacles are going to be in your way. So a specific answer I can't give you. I would argue that I would fight my hardest to make sure that colleges are funded, and I would also make sure that public schools are well funded, and that the $1 billion that are going to charter schools that fail at a rate of about an average of 20 a year are brought back and put back into the public school system. Okay?
I just met with the superintendent of Lake County Schools this morning, and it was interesting. One of the things that we were talking about is, of course, last year the legislature passed compression funding, so it gave Lake County $2.8 million additional dollars for K through 12, which was a big help for Lake County. Senator, I'd like to ask you, maybe you have the answer to this. How much is in the Best and Brightest Fund? That's legislation that was enacted by the state legislature that sends money gives teachers increased pay based on how they scored on their SAT scores when they were entering college. I mean,
I don't like that criteria either.
that does not do anything to determine which are the best teachers in any classroom. But there are millions of dollars. I thought you might know off the top of your head how many millions of dollars are in there, because those millions of dollars need to go back into our public schools, our K through 12. And let the local, let your principals, let the superintendents decide who are their good teachers and to give them the pay raises. On state sorry.
Yeah, don't get it. It's only a minute.
Hi. Talking about how we would fund it. Well, we have a lot of programs that maybe should be sunsetted that aren't working. Some things that I could point to directly is what we give for tax incentives for companies that come to Florida, supposedly creating jobs that are going to pay decent salaries, and then leave without doing that. And I think we should really take a hard look at what we're giving away to these companies. If we have a good educational system, good health care, and good transportation, they will come. Let's stop bribing companies to come to Florida. Let's have the basis of good infrastructure, education, and transportation, and then they will come and they will bring their people, because they're not going to come here if they think our schools aren't good. They're not going to come here if we have deteriorating roads. They're not going to come here if we have bad water. And they're not going to come here if we don't have common sense gun laws. We need to do all of these things to get them here, and we don't need to bribe them anymore. Millions of dollars have been wasted in incentives, and we need to end that. And that's how I would fund those programs.
This question relates directly to a constitutional amendment on the ballot this year. So the constitutional amendment coming up on the ballot this year is about taxation in the state and what percentage of the vote you would need to raise taxes. Leadership means tough decisions, and leadership means that you have to tax, because that is what pays for the systems of the places, things that we have in place. Why our bridges fall or why our schools aren't funded. We can't just keep saying we cut taxes and don't have any funds, and then everybody needs those funds to pay for the programs. And if you look at Oklahoma, Oklahoma did exactly what Florida is trying to do this year, and what did it do to their systems? It wiped out the bottom of them. In Oklahoma, you saw the unions this year and the teachers go on strike this year to try to remediate what happened with the taxation in Oklahoma and underfunded schools. The other part of this with the school funding is, I talked with Sean Shaw, who's running for Attorney General, and I asked him, one of the first things I wanted him to look at is what happened to the Florida lottery money. Because I know I was teaching in Florida when that lottery came in, and it was supposed to go to the schools. And it did fund Bright Futures, and Bright Futures is even harder to get than it used to be. So what happened? We have a 2-digit, a 3-digit, a 4-digit, a 5-digit, an afternoon, morning, evening draw. We have Floridians putting millions of dollars. Where is this money going? And I'd like to know.
So I wanted to thank all of our candidates, and we're gonna have one more pass through everybody to do a closing statement. And our viewers at South Lake also asked for you to once again say your name, what you're running for as part of your closing statement. I believe you wanted to respond as well. So we'll give you about 2 minutes for that. You can have your quick response to her question right before we start your 2 minutes. How about that?
I'll probably ask something even better.
Okay, even better. Go ahead.
Folks, the most important thing we can do for you is to keep fostering prosperity for the state of Florida, because that's what pays the bills. I'll quote Margaret Thatcher. She said, socialistic method is great. Everybody gets whatever they need. That's a great system. Until you run out of other people's money to give away. And then you're all poor together. Please look at Venezuela. Folks, it doesn't work. We have to incentivize people succeeding and letting them know they can succeed, and then giving them the tools to succeed. And that's why I'm pushing on this VOTEC and education that state colleges do, because they're directly linked to workforce. And this empowers people to have independence over their own lives, not be a dependent of the government, but actually have the freedom. I learned that poor people don't want your money or my money. They want their own money. And if we set up the right climate where this state continues to prosper like it is right now, there'll be so much more opportunity for people to go out and start businesses and do things and pursue careers. Right now, we have jobs that we don't even have the people to fill. And that's going to be the role of these state colleges and tech centers. And that is going to be the next step to make sure that we're filling. And they will come if we have the right workforce. We have a beautiful state and a beautiful place to come to. I'm honored to serve you, and I hope you'll stay in touch with me. No matter whether you agree with me or not, I'll bet you we'll find something we agree on. God bless you.
Before we go to the other candidates, I just want to say how much that we are grateful to have members of the public join us here at Lake-Sumter. Lake-Sumter State College has a unique culture. Our college Republicans and Democrats sit down in the same room and they plan these events together. They get along, they share pizza, they don't hog it. Our faculty and our staff, we're used to hearing people we disagree with. We give them their full time and we applaud politely at the end. If you are from the public and you are a guest in our home, welcome. And we ask you to please adhere to our expectations that we have for our staff. Thank you.
I want to thank Dr. Thompson for helping put this together, Dr. Seedorf for being here, all the professors, students, concerned citizens who came out, and fellow candidates who got into the ring. Thank you so much for being here. It really is a great experience. I'll close with this, with a note to our young people. When I was your age, 10 years ago, I was 19 at the University of Florida, and there was a thing called the Great Recession. You might remember it. And we were scared. We were really scared. I swear, I was totally scared. 19 years old, I was like, I'm not getting a job. I'm going to get out, and I'm going to have to do nothing. You know, I mean, I'm in trouble. And since then, it was a formational experience, and I know that the thing that matters the most as a legislator, state legislature, is to make sure that people can achieve prosperity and get a good job. A good job grounds a person. Like Ronald Reagan said, there is no better social program than a job. I think that most people will agree with. And when you have a good job, you can really create a foundation for a household, a family, and they can be better parents, and the kid will do better, and the whole society is structured. It all comes down to economic opportunity. That is the basis. So we have to make sure that we protect that. And I believe that my policies, the Republican policies that are proposed, that are in action now, are going to keep good jobs coming to Florida. We're going to create economic opportunity for our young people. Thank you so much.
Orrin Miller, House of Representatives, District 33. One of the things I want to say, I want to leave you with, I want everybody to remember, elections have consequences. Don't think they don't, and don't think your vote doesn't count. Your vote counts. And elections do have consequences. One of the things I've changed a little bit is the definition of insanity. I think the definition of insanity is to vote for the same people you've been voting for time after time after time and expecting different results. You've got to change the way you're voting. Thank you.
I'm Garrett McKechnie, running for Florida Florida State Senate in District 12. And I just wanted to reference, Dennis, I think he likes me, and I like Dennis, but he mentioned the failed policies of the past, and I just wrote down a couple of quick notes. The failed policies of the past got us out of the Great Depression with Franklin Roosevelt. It turned a wartime economy into a peacetime economy after World War II with Harry Truman. It got us to the moon with JFK, and it's got us a Peace Corps. It got us out of the recession in 1987, 1990 with President Clinton. It got us out of the Great Recession with President Obama. Those are failed policies. I'm glad to be a part of those failed policies because that's what I'm going to continue. And here's the new phrase that's going around, and you guys are going to pick up on this real damn quick. Andrew Gillum, when he was nominated, nobody had a thought who this guy was. Then all of a sudden, Republicans, they don't call him liberal anymore. What is he now? He's a socialist. He's a socialist. Yeah, man, watch out for those socialists. Hey, man, I tell you what, you go out on this road, you're a socialist because you're using a road that was paid for by all of the people. You call it the fire department, you're calling a group that is not privately owned, that's part of our government. That is a socialist program because everybody's contributing to that. The police department as well, the military. We have airlines that are being funded by the federal government. That's a socialist program. It's all over the place, folks. And you can't use that as this sort of scare tactic to say don't vote for Democrats because they're socialists. They're trying to equate that to that sort of McCarthy-era communism in that Red Scare stuff. Don't let people scare you. Don't let them inject fear into this election. Don't let them snow you. You guys especially. And I'm glad you two, and all the Republicans and Democrats here get along. We're going to get along, but I guarantee you, you got to vote in your own interest, and I would argue it's the Democrats that you need to vote for. These guys have had 20 and 24 years in our Florida state government to fix things. If they wanted you to have health care, if they wanted you to have higher wages, if they wanted you to have better jobs, you would have those right now.
My name is Cynthia Brown. I'm running for the Florida House of Representatives, District 32. And the reason I'm running is because I wanted to give back to the community that raised me. And I want to do well to help our public schools, our state colleges, our teachers, in our colleges, in our K through 12. I want to work to protect our environment. And I want to grow jobs in the district. I hope that you will all vote for me on November the 6th, if you're eligible. And whether you're a Republican, Democrat, or Independent, I would very much appreciate your vote November the 6th. And thanks again, Lake-Sumter State College, for having me.
I'm Deborah Kaplan. I'm a Democrat running for State House Seat 31. I'm running because we need more representative government. We have a state rep currently in there who does not even go out and meet people. I want to be accessible. We have state government people who've never had a conversation with her, don't even know her by face. I want to be very, very out there. I want to be accessible. I want to have us stop raiding the Sadowski Trust Fund, which is for affordable housing, and throwing that money into the general fund. There are people who need affordable housing, who are working multiple jobs just to put rent out, food on the table. We need to do better for our people. We need to provide working, good jobs for people. People deserve better than the minimum wage. We need to help our citizens no matter what level they are, with better education, better roads, better transportation, and making sure that if they want to buy a house, there are the means to do that, as well as expanding Medicare, Medicaid in this state, because there are a lot of people who have to choose between buying prescriptions and putting food on the table, and that is wrong in this time and day and age. We should be taking care of people. It's not about socialism. Hubert Humphrey said it best: a society who does not look out for its elderly people and children are doomed. We need to take care of people, but not in a socialistic way. We need to give them opportunities. We need to take money away from programs that are not working, sunset them, and put the money where it should be. We should not be putting out a lot of money for executives to run our incentive programs to bring businesses to this state. That money could be better applied to education, and helping expand vocational education in the state would be a way to give people more of a middle class life. Thank you for letting me come.
Thank you for having us here today. My name is Dana Cottrell, running for U.S. House District 11. I decided to run last December. I'd always wanted to run. I've always wanted to serve. I didn't think it would start now. But last December, there was a tweet from the president, and this tweet was about Congresswoman Gillibrand. And when I heard what the president said about a woman, how she would get on her knees and beg him and do anything he asked for campaign funds, I called Congressman Webster's office, and I said to the aide who answered, if he doesn't come out and say something in support of women against this tweet, I'm running for office, and I'm going to beat him on November 6th. I think it is time that women have a voice in government. We have been waiting for too long. 50% of our population are women, 50% of our government should be women. And I look at what's happening right now in the Senate and I am disgusted. I am disgusted to hear that women's voices are going to be steamrolled in the Senate. To me, that is unacceptable. Everybody has a voice and everybody should be represented. And we should not run on fear tactics. To me, that is reprehensible, to scare people into a vote. And this is where I started with about being knowledgeable voters. It is so important. The most jobs in our state have been produced at the retail level, which is the lowest